New generation umbrella funds are using technology more and more to help enhance the member experience, and I'm joined today by Nzwa Shoniwa, who's the managing executive of the Sanlam Umbrella Fund. Nzwa, good morning and welcome to the studio.
Morning, Chris, and thanks for having me.
Brilliant. So give us a couple of practical examples. I mean, how do you guys use tech in the real world? Give us some of that experience as to how you guys go about that.
Yeah, so Chris, on our side, if I look at the past 2 to 3 years, our key digital themes have mostly been centered around improving digital adoption across our member base, and measuring client experience, member engagement, and alignment across our varying solutions. And we strongly believe that technology allows the members to have access to information at their fingertips, where members are informed and educated on the implications of their decisions, and they're empowered to make the right decision, not only for now, but I think definitely into the future as well. So from our side, a lot of the work that we've done has been really on our app. So we've invested quite a bit into our app just to make sure that it's a transactional app and it's not just feeding information through to the members. What I mean by that is that members can actually, update their nomination beneficiaries. They can make their investment switches on the app as well. And you know what's currently playing out in terms of Gen Z and millennials will make up the bigger chunk of our umbrella funds in the future. By 2025, I think the stats say that Gen Z will make up 27% of the working population. So with that, it obviously means that, from our side to communicate with this new membership profile, I think, digital themes will have to be the main focus in terms of how we, innovate on the umbrella fund side.
Interesting that you mentioned the youngsters, because I mean the younger generation are all on their mobiles. We see that every day. And what worries me is I'm aware of them taking advice from very interesting places like TikTok, where you'll have somebody that may just have a huge following, and then seems very believable to this young generation. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, they're not really, a qualified financial person, let alone applicable to their surroundings here in the local context. So I mean, what do you guys have to sort of counter and give advice on that level?
Yeah, it's interesting that you raise that, Chris, because obviously that's one of that's obviously the new world we live in, where the so-called influencers have quite a massive following, and they then dabble across very different topics and areas of expertise, which is a bit risky given the world we operate in, which is the financial industry. I think you do need to sort of really understand what it is that you're talking about. You do need to have the right qualifications, the right accreditation to give advice. But from our side, at the back of the comment you just made, we totally understand that engaging members in a way that they want to be engaged is key to improving engagement rates. So, what we've initially looked at, which is not TikTok or other platforms that the youngsters are on, we've expanded our engagement channels to include WhatsApp technology as a proactive engagement tool. So the WhatsApp engagement allows for real-time consumption of retirement benefits counseling information and member responses. And for us, it's the first step towards probably engaging your Gen Z and your millennials on a platform that we think that they're much more comfortable with. TikTok might be the next one, but at this stage we haven't expanded to that platform.
You mentioned benefit counselling, and it's been around now for I think a sufficient time to kind of pick up on trends and results. And my question really, I think, is it working? Are we seeing people changing their behaviours once that they have been counselled with? Are those changes materialising?
Yeah, thanks for that, Chris. And we've obviously got the stats for the Sanlam Umbrella Fund. And what we've seen is that, with those members that we managed to reach before retirement, before withdrawal, because that's where the real challenge is. The amount of time you actually have between the person making a decision and you being able to get to them and actually have some sort of conversation. with those members that we have had some sort of conversation, we've actually seen a decrease in the number of members that are taking cash. So if I look at, across the Sanlam umbrella fund from both the withdrawal and retirement perspective, we're seeing preservation rates which have now gone above 30%. And when we started this, we were actually below 20%. So what I mean by that is that 80% were taking cash. And we're seeing now that more and more people are using our in-fund solutions. And obviously, there's also quite a bit of cash that still flows for our competitors, but that's still fine. That doesn't mean that benefit counseling is not working. I think what you're trying to do is that at an industry level, there is some sort of preservation that happens. And we are definitely seeing that there's been an uptick, in the past 3 years since we've been engaging members. The challenge for us is how quickly we can get to those members. And even with the lump sum group risk payouts, those are also people that you want to get to and try and get them to also preserve and understand the implications of simply taking their money in cash and using it for whatever short-term needs that they have. So I think with technology as well is where you then want to try and use some sort of I guess it's a technology that's available to you, whether that's a WhatsApp channel, try and get to those members as quick as possible before they make that decision.
Thanks for that, Nzwa. So another elephant in the room, I suppose, is and I think it'll be a miss not to talk about it, is the looming two-pot system that's kicking on 2 components, I think they refer to it now, that's coming on stream next year. I think the moment you tell people that there's money available, obviously they're going to try and make use of that. So I think industry also expects quite a bit of a spike in terms of claims, against those excess pots for the members. Also important in that equation is the communication and speaking to people to say, listen, if you don't really need it, don't compromise yourself in the long term. So, what role do you see you guys playing in that field, and what are the sort of technology that you aim employing, to reach out to them in this instance?
Yeah, thanks for that. I think you've saved already, and positioned the question. So from our side, we're actually expecting just over 100,000 members to come forward on the 1st of March to claim money from their savings pot. And there's quite a bit of preparation underway on our side. Obviously, we're still waiting for final legislation. But I totally agree with you. I think the stance that we're taking is, from a communication perspective, we want to partner with intermediaries as well as unions and employers. And what we're looking at is, putting up posters that on site, putting up posters with employers to simply explain what this legislation entails. And I think the main aspect as well is to understand, or for members and clients to understand why the legislation has been put in place. So we all know what happened during COVID, and a lot of people struggled. So this is not legislation that's been put in place for people to simply access a portion of their retirement savings. Legislation that's being put in place for people to have something to fall back to should they find themselves in circumstances where they do need some sort of emergency savings. I think it's that type of messaging and communication that we are driving, together with our intermediaries, unions, as well as clients, which is our participating employers. So I think communication is going to be the key aspect, and who drives that communication with the members. I think it will also make a difference in terms of where we end up with 2 pots. Now, one aspect I probably also wanted to touch on, Chris, with regards to 2 pots is obviously some of the risks that sit with some of these payments. We all know that there are quite a few instances of people's ID copies being used to open fake bank accounts, right, which are then used for payments, and the bank verifications then don't work. So, in order to mitigate some of this risk, we've focused heavily on putting processes in place to ensure that members' emergency savings pots are only accessed by themselves. So, from our side, what we're looking at is that members will log on to the portal or to the app to initiate the claim, and then they'll have to verify via an SMS sent to the member. So the participating employers will be asked to load the bank account details used for the members' salaries, and it's only those same account details that will be used for the payments. So the bank account that you use for your monthly salary would only verify that account and use that for the payment, which will be done by the app or the portal. So, as you'd appreciate with the space that you operate in, as you expand your digital footprints, this ultimately contributes to an increase in cyber attacks. That's one of the big risks that we're also looking out for. Once the legislation comes into play and the payments start happening, and I think that's possibly still going to be 1 March 2024.
Right, so that was very interesting. Something that, just as an aside, maybe, and it's something that I've picked up in the industry, Nzwa, is that a lot of people are battling. There seems to be the sense of work-life balance being challenged in many respects. So, I'm surely you guys see this in terms of your members and their engagement levels, etc. There seems to be a general sort of everybody's down. And how do we remedy that, and what are the things that you guys are doing from your side in that space?
Yeah, thanks for that, Chris. I think from our side, obviously, as you continue to innovate and add value-added benefits to your existing value proposition, one of the steps we've taken is to engage our intermediaries and employers to really try and find out what it is that our members are currently struggling with. So what type of value-added benefits would actually make sense for the employer as well as for the members? And one of the aspects that's been popping up in our interactions a lot is around, mental wellness. That a lot of people are struggling with mental wellness, especially, post-COVID. And, it's no secret that among its many impacts, the COVID-19 pandemic did create a global crisis for mental health, fueling short and long-term stresses and undermining the mental health of millions of people. And I read a stat quite recently, which estimated that the rise in both anxiety and depressive disorders was at more than 25% during the first year of the pandemic, adding to nearly 1 billion people who are already living with some sort of mental disorder. So we know, from our side that, our country does face a mental health pandemic just as serious as serious as the COVID pandemic. And South Africa does rank quite low on the mental health side. And this is because our country is beset by living conditions that fuel poor mental health, including social and structural drivers, such as high levels of violence, poverty, unemployment, inequality, everything that we read about, almost every day in the newspapers. So with that, what we looked at with mental health claims being on the rise globally and more for our members seeking assistance in this regard, the rising demand and the well-being of our members prompted us to add free psychologist sessions to the existing virtual doctor offering, effective 1 October 2023. So that should be next week, and that's something that we're quite excited about. So, in September 2021, we launched free virtual doctors. So if you log onto our app, you can click top right corner, and you go into a waiting room where you then either speak to a doctor or speak to a nurse, and those doctors do have capability to actually provide you with a script if you need a script. So effective 1 October, through the exact same channel, the same portal, you'll be able to go into the same waiting room and then decide, advise the nurse whether you want to see a doctor or a psychologist. If it's a psychologist, you can have a 45-minute session with the psychologist. So we think, this is quite a big step for us in the right direction to try and address some of the challenges that our employers, participating employers, and our members are currently facing, because this definitely is a pandemic that the whole country is challenged with at the moment.
Absolutely right. Yeah, and it's not only that, and as you quite rightly said, it is the pandemic. There's also the sort of crime. There's a lot of other factors. There's even load shedding that adds to the equation. It's all
correct.
Bits and
exactly.
That add,
people are stuck in traffic. Yes.
That seems to just be getting to people and really affecting them in a very negative way. So well done. I think it's a great move for you guys to add that. Nzwa, thank you very much. I think it was a very interesting discussion. Thank you very much. I really look forward to us having a chat about this more in the future. And good luck. You guys are doing a good job. Well done.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me. And all the best for the remainder of the year.
100%. Take care. We'll chat soon.